Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to Surviving Life's Pickles this week. For whatever time of day you're listening to us, we just want to say how grateful we are that you guys have taken that time to tune into our show today and to hang out with us and our wonderful guest, Joel Pack, that we have here today. And we're so excited for this episode. This one has been a little bit time coming,
Yeah.
and it's going to be really fun. But as all of you know, before we get into our main topic of what we're doing for the day and discussing, we all talk about what we're grateful for and kind of go around the circle. And I'm going to go ahead and start today.
Okay.
And,
What are you grateful for today?
there's a lot of things I'm really grateful for today,
Yeah.
but I am really grateful for our dogs.
Oh,
I'm grateful for our little furry friends because when you're not feeling good, they know it and they make sure and show you the extra affection.
Yeah.
And when they know you need to get outside,
they push
they'll
you.
they'll push you because they want to go outside. And so they're really in tune with how we're feeling, what we need, and I appreciate having them around. It's so much fun to take them out. We had such a great experience with Rufus over the weekend, taking him out to a big public thing. I mean, there was probably 60, 70 people
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
He did great. And then he was also great all weekend.
Mm.
And it was just a really good weekend. Made me really appreciate having the dogs around, and so I'm really grateful for them today.
I'm grateful for our trainer being able to train our naughty little boxer into being in a public place around 60 people and to be so well behaved.
Yeah.
I was actually really shocked.
Yeah,
The right trainer makes all the
Mhm.
difference.
it
Yeah.
does. Yes, it does. One of these days, we'll get her on the show too and talk about some of her theories and different things because she's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, the trainer, not the boxer.
well, he's already been on the
He's
show.
been on the show
He sneaks in every once in a while.
a few
So,
times.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well, Joel, I'm gonna let you go next. What
Yeah,
are you grateful for
I am
today?
grateful. I've got, a lot, also so many things to be grateful for today, but the glaring one for me is the beautiful spring we are having. I know we didn't quite get all the snow we wanted in Utah or would have been helpful for some healthy moisture, as they like to call it in Utah.
yeah.
But man, yeah, the winters, I get that seasonal affective thing hard, man, and it rocks me. And I always get cocky in like December. I was like, I'm feeling pretty good, feeling pretty good. Then February, March, and then something will click. The birds will be out, and the atmosphere is just a certain way. I am super grateful for spring and feeling just like turned corner and the itch to get outside and do
Mhm.
more stuff. And yeah.
I
Yeah,
love it.
I love that one
Yeah.
because I could definitely agree with you. I know both me and Scott have like seasonal depression.
Yeah.
When it's dark and it's the overcast or even just the inversion down
Yeah.
here is awful. So that renewal feeling of spring
It's
is
so nice.
it is so nice. Okay, my turn.
Your turn.
Okay, I would hope I could maybe get away with the trainer one, but I'll give you a better one today. um, so we're watching this show. I'm sure many of our listeners have probably heard of it or seen it. We're watching Madison. It's a grief show. It talks a lot about losing loved ones and grief. And it definitely made me think of a few things. It made me grateful for my loved ones that are still here. Um, my sweet, sweet, sweet little grandma that she's definitely in her prime, and I know that there's going to be a moment where she's not going to be with us anymore, but she is just the highlight of my month when I get to do her hair about every 4 weeks. And this last time around, I went a little bit too long, and I know that she just loves to sit and visit, but I am so grateful for her to be able to sit and visit and really learn who she is, just talk with her, talk about life, and I'm just grateful for my loved ones. But the other thing that that show kind of brought on was, and it's kind of just a basic one, I'm grateful for running water. They have like a little outhouse there. And Scott, you had a friend that you had mentioned the other day that they don't have any running water. They live off of a well and they actually have to carry buckets into their house. And when you think about the simplicity of just going to your faucet, turning on your water, um, I am definitely grateful for the lifestyle that we have today and that we don't have to be like pioneers bucketing our water and boiling it. And it's a simple one, but it's a big one.
Mhm.
So
We it's one of those things that we all take for granted,
we do.
and knowing that, I mean, there's still people here locally that are doing that.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, wow, be really grateful for the small, big things that we have, because not everybody still has those.
Yeah.
So it's something that a lot of people don't know, that there's still a lot of that going around here. I
Mhm.
mean, you get out of the metropolitan area and you get up in some of these rural areas like Fruitland and different things. I mean, they're just living off wells and they're literally bucketing their water in still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we've come so far that people have had the running water and then gone back and I'm gonna
Yeah.
live off the land. I want something off grid, and then they go, "Oh crap!"
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know if I could go that extreme,
yeah.
but
Maybe we'll get there one day.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When we're tired of all the people,
Yeah.
it'll be worth it. So, well, everybody, today is one of these kind of ones we've been planning. We didn't quite know how this episode was going to come about, but we've been talking with Joel on and off for a few months. So Joel owns Ribby Road Studios.
Yep.
He is also the front man for Broke City, a
Mhm.
local band. And you have been in the music industry pretty much your entire adult life.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up around music since I was little. I was the youngest of 7 kids. My brothers and sisters were all in like theater growing up. One of my older sisters was played Christine in Phantom of the Opera on
Oh, wow.
Broadway, and I've got another brother who he lives off the grid and is a folk artist who lives in a tent and
Huh.
puts
Kind of gypsy life.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I was just always around it. My mom likes to joke that when I was 4 or 5 and people asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I wanted to be a piano polisher because that was one of my chores around the house was I
Oh,
polished the piano. But anyway, as far as starting, and is this a side address, Mike?
Nope, you're good.
I'm good.
You're
Okay.
good.
So I just grew up with it all around me. And then when it was time to decide kind of, and I was always had jobs growing up and, in high school at a very young age, started working. And then I graduated high school and it was like, and I was in this band and I spent all of my money I had saved for college on a recording. We're making a CD. It was the most disappointing experience. Like we showed up for the first day of tracking and the engineer was reading the second page of the instruction manual of the
Oh boy.
gear that he was going to use. He'd never done it before, but anyway, it was just not the greatest experience. And I thought, I think I could do a better job on a little 4-track or something. So I spent $50 at the pawn shop, Van Wagnen's pawn shop over there back in 97 or 98. And I started recording my own demos, and other bands would hear the demos I was doing on my 4-track. And they'd say, "Hey, how much for a song?" And I don't know, and then I did that and did another band and bought more gear. So it's been since like 98 was the first time I took money for recording a band. So it's been is that 30 years almost, I guess?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
close.
Wow.
So Joel, me and you go long time back.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it this morning. The first time technically I hadn't met you, but the
Mhm.
first time I was introduced to you uh, was at Sweet 13
Yeah.
here in Orem. It was a little, what was it? It was like an underage club.
Yeah.
like for teenagers. They had pool tables. It was almost like a club or a bar
Yeah.
without the alcohol for kids and teenagers, and bands would play, but they had an open mic
Okay.
there. And I remember you came and played your bass,
Uh-huh.
and you did a little bit of your one man band
Yep.
thing with your pedals. And I remember watching you and was just awestruck, and
Oh,
my jaw had hit the floor. I'd never ever heard somebody play the bass like you did. It was so fascinating, and I was like, I need to know who this guy is. Like, he is so cool.
oh, thanks. Well,
And
that's fun to hear.
oh,
Yeah, I mean, playing bass was, my people talk about their life-saving moments, hearing Chili Peppers,
yeah.
or in Primus, and like, I want to whatever. I don't know what that is, but whatever it is, I want to learn how to play it.
Yeah.
And then as most bass players know, you get to a point where you go, all right, this is
something more.
this is tough. Yeah, this is tough. And I don't want to pick up a guitar, and so you start figuring out how to do things with both hands, tapping and playing it like a piano and doing stuff. So that's probably
That's exactly what you
what
were
we're getting
doing.
into. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd never heard the bass played that way. It was so cool.
Well, and what you just said kind of really kind of leads into, you said the bass kind of saved you.
Yeah.
So music really played an important role in your life at that point, and that's kind of one thing we really wanted to hit today is music and the effect it really has on us. So I'd love to hear more about how you say that the bass saved you. I mean, what was
Yeah.
going on in your life at
Well,
that point?
well, you know, I make the joke now. I'll kind of start at the end and work back around. I make the joke now. I love the band The Cure. They've been like one of my favorite bands forever.
Huh.
And my joke is, am I neurotic because I grew up listening to The Cure, or do I love The Cure because I'm neurotic? And it's kind of one of those chicken or egg things, And I, since I was in kindergarten, I loved that band, and they're kind of known for, it's like, not breakup music or
Emo.
feel emo, like,
They were kind of the first emo band, I think.
yeah, it makes you feel okay about getting stuck in your own hole and covering up in blankets and wallowing in self-pity,
Yeah.
But there's definitely a beauty to such beautiful music, and I, love them. When I was 11, my best friend I didn't have a whole lot of friends growing up in Michigan. I was kind of a weird kid. Um, Not the charismatic figure you see before you today. But I had this one friend, and he was just so cool to me, and he was well liked and well respected by his peers and by kids at school. We didn't go to the same school, but um, I was just like, man, if this kid thinks I'm cool, then I must be all right. And they moved out to Utah, while I was still in Michigan. And then, like 3 months after they moved out here, he died of an asthma attack. I was like 10, 11 years old.
Oh, man.
And it broke me. I did not know what to do with that, And I grew up in a house where, feelings like sadness or anger or even silliness weren't necessarily celebrated, uh, kind of, didn't know what to do with that stuff. And I just sat and wallowed and listened to The Cure and was sad and cried. And I was at a distraction in school because I would just be crying at my desk, and I'd get called into the office because it's like,
They didn't know what to
what do you need? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, are you okay? Like, no, I'm not. Well, what do you need? My friend not to be dead. I don't know. Anyway, so I would just listen to The Cure and cry. And, then we moved out to Utah, and something I heard, oh no, it was before we moved to Utah. I heard the intro to Higher Ground by the it was a Stevie Wonder tune, and
Yeah.
Chili Peppers
Redid.
covered it. And that bass intro, it was just pure, like, adrenaline and weirdness and happiness, and I felt confidence
Yeah.
for the first time waking up that morning and hearing that. And I'd wake up the next day, I was like, I got to hear that song again. And so every morning, that would be the first thing that I'd listen to. And I bought my first bass when I was 12 for $50 and learned that bass intro, and I was off to the races,
Awesome.
Um, So it was just kind of I guess a dichotomy of, I mean, I still love both of those bands. They remind, anytime I feel like I need remembering who I am or some kind of grounding, I'll go back and listen to The Cure, I'll listen to Chili Peppers, but I have to watch myself and be cognizant of, am I am I going to listen to this because it feels real good to feel bad?
Mhm.
And am I going to let myself get sucked into that and not do anything with it afterwards? Or uh, is this music that's sad? Sometimes, like I'd mentioned, growing up in a house where maybe sadness or anger or some of these feelings I said weren't celebrated, opposite, where not necessarily,
Discouraged.
yeah, it was not part of the culture
Yeah.
in the house.
Well, I
And
mean, this was in the 80s.
yeah,
We didn't really talk about our feelings back in the
No.
80s. That wasn't really something that people shared about or talked
no,
about or
no, it was like, woke
it's
up,
basic.
hey kids, sorry, we got some bad news. Your best friend's dead. Uh, anyway, the bus is coming in like 10 minutes. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but having some of those songs that maybe tackle some of those tough subjects is a way to maybe feel seen,
Mhm.
and so I think there's kind of, at least for me, I have to watch it and kind of be cognizant of, hey, does this make me feel less alone in these feelings and feel like, hey, like, I think Robert Smith is a badass, and if he's cool singing about being sad, then hey, maybe I can be kick ass and sad too.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
It
okay,
gave you permission.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah. Well, and that really, I mean, that leads into one of the things that inspired to get you down here, Joel. It's we were kind of discussing before is over the last couple of weeks, I've dove back into kind of like you just said, I dove back into the 90s rock,
Yeah.
and the early 2000s and all that stuff we listened to in junior high, high school, in our early adulthood. And it brings back feelings. It brings back good feelings, bad memories, all these different things. But one thing I'd realized this last time listening to all that stuff, it's like you just said, a lot of it's sad.
Yeah.
A lot of it talks about breakups. A lot of it talks about suicide. A lot of it talks about all of these just horrible things that we go through in life in that time range. And I'd really take a step back. And so me and Hillary started doing a deep dive and started looking if there was research projects just showing because if it talked about it so much, we were like, okay, well, I wonder if there was a trend where it's correlating with suicides and different things during that time. And what we found is during that time, there really wasn't anything. But what we found surprising is now between the ages of 38 and 55, males are the highest rated for suicide
Yeah.
at this time. And so that's in our age group. That's all of us listening to that stuff is growing up. And so I started being curious of I wonder if all that music that we had during that time has now played an effect later in life, not necessarily during when we were listening to it, but now later in life, is it playing an effect? And I really wanted to dive into that with you and get
Yeah.
your opinion from being in the music industry. What's your thoughts? I mean, what do you think that it affects us so many years down the road later where it's negative, or do you think it's just maybe the situation or
Well, I think it could. And part of, I after y'all invited me up and I got thinking about um effects, mental and emotional health, and how music plays a role in that, both, positively and negatively. Um a big thing for me with that has to do with identity. And on the one hand, Mr. Rogers said, if it's mentionable, it's manageable. And I think having songs that talked about that stuff, like we were saying, it gives you an permission to think about it and go there and maybe express some feelings that otherwise you couldn't. And on the other hand of that, there's if that becomes your identity, you're wearing the shirt, you're, um, and again, not going to be like, "Hey, yeah, kids are listening to all this racy music and
Right.
wearing the shirts and you gotta, but I mean, yeah, I think, it, once your identity becomes kind of tied to that, i- in the same way that, if you have a bad day at work or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, it should be okay to talk about your feelings and vent or whatever. However, if that's the habit and you're just getting into it, and then your identity is the person who's impossible to be around all the time because you're just, you identify with, oh, it feels good to be negative, and now that's who I am. Dyed my hair black and wore the guy liner and black fingernail paint, and it's like almost you feel, well, if I'm not waking up and being miserable, I'm not being authentic,
Uh,
or I'm not being myself, because now there's an identity tied to the music I'm listening to or creating, for that matter. My last two songs that everybody liked were talking about all this, that, and the other. And so that's the next song I got to make. And you sing that over and over again. And, the thing about your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits, and that, becomes your identity. And, um, so yeah, I think it stands to reason that, if that's what you're listening to and if that's what really gets you going and you're not aware of it, I mean,
I
I
think
think there's something to it.
I
Yeah.
think you nailed it on the head. As we were kind of doing some research, I was looking at like, okay, what are the uh, can can music affect your mental health positively? And then turning it around, can music affect your mental health negatively? And you almost nailed it on the head. Of the negative side of it is, it definitely said that if you let that become almost your identity, and you are constantly consuming negative energy or music or anything like that, then that's kind of what turns the table
Yeah.
and becomes where you're sitting.
Yeah.
You're constantly sitting in negativity, you're constantly listening to negativity, you're living in negativity, then it absolutely can affect your mental health in a negative way.
Totally.
So,
Well, in the same way with the positive. And so after I had this little stint of listening to, just diving back into all the good stuff,
Yeah.
from that age, the Nirvanas and the Pearl Jams and the Soundgarden and the Green Day and,
Yeah.
all this stuff. Then I kind of had this like pit in my stomach a little bit. I'm like, okay. And then I woke up and I'm like, the next morning, I'm like, man, I'm just kind of dragging. And so what I had to do is I went back to some of my now go-to music that is very positive, very upbeat, very happy. I turned that on and instantly I felt the difference. I mean,
Yeah.
the energy that brought me almost immediately pulled me out of kind of that funk stage that I was feeling. And so it's incredible to me. And the one question you just mentioned, you write a song
Mm-hmm.
and it was a hit and you're like, okay, well, I got to write another song
Mm-hmm.
that's like that. But as you're writing some of these,
Yeah.
do you go through and maybe and I don't know what your process is, if you do lyrics first or music first or a combination, but if you get some of these lyrics written down and then you're like, you know what? I really need to make this more of an upbeat. This kind of seems like a downer.
Yeah.
Is that influence how you do stuff?
Yes, and I love talking about this stuff. Yes, very much. I mean, I love writing songs so much. It's like you know one of my very favorite things to do, and a thing that, but uh 10 times over that feeling of hearing that bass intro and learning to play bass, the ability to be able to turn a mood or a feeling or one of life's questions that I don't have an answer to be able to turn that into, a piece of art or craft, that where there's something, and has maybe helped me work it out a little bit.
Mhm.
Man, I'll take that as my extra credit gratitude thing for today. But yes, that's such a big part of it. Some of the first songs I wrote, it's like, okay, here's a question, or here's something I'm wrestling with or I'm struggling with. And so you try to put it into words and you try to make the music, or the better I get at it, the less I'm trying, and the more I am just open to putting my head up or putting my head down and going, "All right, universe." Gus is what I call what I say. You guys familiar with the term Gus?
No.
No.
Oh, God, universe, source, or spirit, where it's like, whatever you call it. It's like the spiritually fluid term for whatever it is that we're
I
calling
like it.
Gus.
I like it.
So, so I'm like, all right, Gus, here's my question for the day, or this is what I'm feeling, and then just try to get out of the way of it, and things will just start coming, whether it's the music portion or the lyric portion or whatever it is. Maybe it's three words and a melody, and then you try to use the craft portion to support whatever Gus's message is for the day. And yes, without fail, you get the verse bit down or a chorus bit down, and maybe start working on another verse, and at some point your brain or life's experience wants to insert itself as far as, oh, now I'm just complaining. This song is just me complaining, or I can take this a turn. What is this? What's the point? What's the bumper sticker? What's the big message here? And if the big message is just the musical equivalent of complaining when you get off work, that's fine. But is there an opportunity here to try to make some sense out of it? And sometimes that's where the bridge comes in. Sometimes that's where the lyrics of the third chorus are the same, but because of the message in the second verse or the bridge were different, all of a sudden that lyric in the first chorus that sounded like complaining and sounded like venting is a new way to think about it, is a new way to maybe a new perspective on that experience that's a potentially negative or difficult one. And that's kind of been my favorite thing. And it doesn't always have to go there. Sometimes it can just, yeah, life sucks sometimes, and that's what the song is saying. But man, the really rewarding part of it for me is to try to twist it so that there's some kind of unique perspective by the end of the song, so that it's like, okay, what it doesn't necessarily wrapped up with a bow and everything's great and peachy and roses, but hey, maybe here's a different way to think about it,
Wow.
I know for a lot of musicians, writing music, playing music is a huge release. Release of emotions,
Yeah.
release of feelings,
Hmm.
because that's what art is.
Yeah.
That's I love art. I love everything to do with art. I always have, whether it be music, painting, poetry, any of it.
Yeah.
And music is such a beautiful art and such a beautiful creation. And for somebody to put their whole heart and soul into words and into a melody, just I was never fully able to do that. I sang a little bit and whatnot. I was never really great at writing music or anything like that. And so I've always had such a huge appreciation for the people that do, and have looked up to you, even just because of the amazing songs that you have done and the beautiful art that you have created. But for you, when you're writing, describe that release for us.
Well, it's a funny thing about that, because I think, there's listening to music and then playing music, and they're very different for me. As far, I'm a music fan also. I love listening to music and I love making music as well, but they're totally different things. And as far as the release portion of it, it's funny, just the physical act of singing something into a microphone and really getting after it. Not necessarily angry. It could be the happiest thing or whatever, just really getting after it. There is a thing where it's like, I could be the biggest pain in the ass to be around all week. And just, I feel so bad for my wife, but I'm trying. And then it's like, I have my Wednesday nights where they're like I'll sometimes stay at the studio all night working on something. I know I'm getting older, so it's not like sustainable or necessarily healthy, but man, if it's been one of those weeks and I'm writing a tune and running on an hour of sleep, and the next morning I wake up or I open my eyes, I'm like, my body kind of feels like crap, but holy cow, whatever it was that was holding me back this last week, I I better go sage that microphone at the studio because I really let it have it last night.
You're
Yeah.
just
And
almost energized from it.
and not hung up anymore about whatever it was I was hung up about. There's, that feeling of being wound up real tight. And it's like, sometimes it's like, cool, I need to go for a run. You can go for a run. It's like, I didn't quite do the trick, or I need to hit the, whatever it is. Sometimes those things, when they don't quite do the trick, um, letting the mic have it.
Mm-hmm.
There's the physical thing, the physical act of it. I had a therapist forever ago that had me scream into a pillow about, that kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I remember sitting and really singing into that mic going, oh yeah, there's something, there's words here. There's emotion here. Nobody's around, so I don't care how foolish I sound. I can, um, and the other kind of opposite end of that, it got me thinking when you're talking about listening to music and sometimes the heavier bands. I grew up listening to Deftones, and
Yeah.
we got to tour with Deftones. And I got to hang out with them, and like, which was just such a cool experience. But I remember the first time I met those guys, I was really intimidated. Like, wow, their music is so heavy. These must be the baddest dudes, and I'm not gonna, felt just intimidated.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, these are gonna be some rough and tumble dudes. So kind and open. And when I talked to them about what kind of music they're into, it's just like, oh, reggae and love, and it's just like
Not what you
nothing but
expect.
love and positivity and respect for people. And just like, wow, this is not what I expected. And conversely, sometimes like the musicians that I'd come in contact to, where they're singing about love and positivity and happy vibes. And these are not the kind of people I want to be hanging out with, because that's what it's
Yeah.
not always. I don't, sometimes I feel like, are these heavy bands getting it out of their system? And I don't know.
Well, it's funny you say that, and I've heard this, and you could tell me if it's true or not, but I've heard the bigger the star and the more powerful their music is, the nicer they are when you meet them in person. Is that something that you have found?
I think it can go both ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, I make the kind of turn of phrase a lot of times when if I'm working with, as I'm producing bands, and I have these consultations where see if we're a good fit or not. I'm producing a lot less and less bands these days, or artists, to see if it's a good fit. And that's one of the things I look out for. Is I call it, like, some people have a fame shaped hole in their heart. People talk about having a God sized hole in their heart, or and where the thing that they're after um isn't necessarily connection, or the musical release. Hey, I need to be famous now, and what's the easiest and best way for me to do that? And I think that sometimes if that's the play, and if that's the intention, it's not about the thing, it's about the thing on the other side of the thing. There's always going to be a other side of the thing, because it's okay. Well, what does quote unquote fame or success look like for you? And if it means I want to get 2 million followers, and it's like, great. Now you got 2 million followers. A lot of people know who you are, and you can't hang because you needed public validation for what you're doing, and now you've got 100 or a million followers, and that also means you've got 500,000 haters.
Right.
So and you don't have the muscle or the bone to back up this flagpole you've climbed up, so I think if and conversely, if sometimes there's this restlessness, which I totally can get, where you go, this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing, and our society doesn't necessarily celebrate or value art, and so you can, and it's a subjective thing, and it's not a meritocracy. So some of the most talented people are just struggling, and if somebody who purely loves it, and if they turn into a huge star, maybe they can put that anxiety down of, okay, this thing that I love that I know I'm confident in, that I'm good at, is recognized, and I can put this anxiety down of, am I good enough or whatever it is, and I can just put my energy into being cool to people and continue in my life.
Well, and it's amazing what comes back from them. So this is a cool experience. So I'll have to share with you, Joel.
Yeah.
So, being a musician, how special Red Rocks Amphitheater is. It is, I mean, it's one of the best places on earth that you could play. And it's got this energy and this spirit just about just even being there. We fell in love with it. I mean, we go out there a couple times a year and see, and we love this place.
It
But
kind of ruined us for any other like,
it really has.
venue to go to.
But we had the opportunity to take our boys, and they were 10 and 11 when we took them. And so they're going to pretty much their very first concert. Like they did a
Big
concert at fairgrounds and stuff here, but they hadn't been to like a concert of that magnitude.
Who'd you all go see?
So we went and seen Bob Moses.
Okay.
And at the time, it was their favorite band.
Yeah.
And these guys are just really energetic. They have a lot of just great feels. Like you can't listen to their music and be sad. You want to dance, you want to move. I mean, they just have. But we took them, and we had a little bit of an interesting experience there for a little bit because, yeah, you get the crowd and that type of scene, and it's a little bit more adult, and so we ended up having to move out of the center because we were right in the center of the
A
amphitheater.
little too
Yeah.
much for the
A little
kids.
too much for the young ones.
Yeah.
And so we sat off on the side and kind of watched it. And Hillary, being Hillary,
Mhm.
was watching the managers and everything all night long.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and as soon as the show ended, she bolted.
Yeah.
And she was able to get in touch with the manager. She told him this whole story about how our kids are here, how they love them, blah, blah, blah. Well, lo and behold, 30 minutes later, we're backstage at Red Rocks
Yeah.
meeting Tom and Jimmy,
Oh, that's
Bob Moses.
awesome.
And they were so amazing. Like they
Yeah.
got down and talked to the boys. They got down and asked them why they were interested or how they got interested in music. And Jimmy, who is the percussionist and the piano player of that group, was telling our oldest, because he has ADHD really bad, that he
Yeah.
does. And that was what helped him kind of find how to manage it. And it was I mean, I'm still awestruck about what amazing people they were to take this time after this show
Mm-hmm.
at Red Rocks, where they're already got all these other people, and they took us into the sound room and just hung out with us.
Well, I think that's a real testament to why it is they're doing what they're doing.
Absolutely.
You could tell they absolutely love what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely loved it. And they did. And it was just, it was awesome. And it was, I mean, and unfortunately, and I say this very happily, but unfortunately, I don't know if we'll ever top that experience
Yeah.
for those kids.
And I made sure that they knew that. I was like, guys, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it. But first of all, my kids were dressed up in onesies. So they had a cat and a puppy onesie.
Because it was
So
cold, and so
it
we
was
wanted them to be
cold.
warm.
And we wanted them to be warm. I was like, this is an opportunity I can kind of maybe misuse a little bit of how do you tell two kids in a puppy costume and a kitty costume no.
Right. Right.
So
At 2 a.m. at this point.
yeah.
All of that is.
So I was like, they are not going to tell my kids no because I'm not going to tell them no dressed up like a puppy and a kitty. So yeah.
Oh, that's so
Worked.
cool.
But so that's the power that I see in music, and the experience of live music
Yeah.
is something like that. It's there's just something special about live music. There's something special about the connection you get with not only the musicians, but the people there
Yeah.
that are listening to it with you. How's that been for you, being on stage, being able to connect to others below?
That's been a ongoing, as far as recorded music and songwriting and stuff. It's like I'm well versed in thinking about that and talking about it a lot because I'm working with other artists all the time. I'm studios, like, probably spent more hours in the recording studio than I have at home. But the live thing, I think this is one of those things that I feel like I'm kind of in a needing to figure it out kind of phase of life. had my heart broken so many times just in the music industry and had to learn different things. And I didn't listen to or play music for 2 years after we started a music licensing company, and um, the act of monetizing and commoditizing music and basically for no other purpose than for money.
Mhm.
No connection, nothing, and then and I had a boss, and it was very, board meetings 2, 3 times a week, just that whole, I was the quote unquote suit, and hearing myself talk to artists saying things that I was like, who is this person? This is not, anyway, um, with the live performance thing, I've gotten to where, we'd played in front of 20,000 people and gotten used to doing that. And then coming off of that, losing a record deal, not being the cool flavor of the week, and then struggling to get 100 people at a bar at 2 in the morning, just like, oh my gosh. So I'm actually but I do know, and I hear a lot of stand-up comedians talk about this as well, where there's the immediate feedback.
Mhm.
It's like the people in the room and it's like one living, breathing organism. And there's the push-pull. It's a breathing thing. Now on the other end of that, I think having the anxiety that comes with planning a show, and if that's outweighing the performance or getting in the way of the living, breathing organism, then that's a tough thing. But I'm probably being a little long-winded and not quite getting to
No, you're fine.
quite answering your question. But in where I'm at and my perspective with it, I think it's a finding what that looks like for some bands. That means Red Rocks, and that's the perfect venue for them, and it makes sense. And for some people, it's like playing at bars in Salt Lake on Friday nights because they're doing cover band thing. Or for some, I used to play at book clubs or bookstores all the time. That was like my favorite thing, was to go play my bass solo sets at Borders Books when that was the
Nice.
thing in the coffee shop. It was like, you can fit about 100, 150 people in here, and it feels packed out. Everybody's super quiet and interested in hearing what I'm saying between songs. Felt there, it was a thing. And anyway, I'm kind of in the middle trying to figure out what that looks like
Yeah.
for me right now.
So the question I had for you, Joel,
Yeah.
I want to know. I mean, I've known you a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember at one point you were signed on to Maverick Records.
Yes. Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that experience and
For sure.
what came from it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, so yes, uh, I was at a point in my life where I had been married. It didn't work out. Uh, I was really low, just at a super. I was like, everything sucks. I suck. I'm a failure. It was a living country song. I lost my house, my dog died, and my car broke down in the middle. Or like, it was all within a week. It was just terrible stuff. And so I camped out on my friend's couch and started writing songs. And a year later, we had a record deal with Maverick Records.
Oh.
And I was doing a bunch of drugs. I was drinking a ton. It was just like, I, yeah, it was just a tough spot, but I felt like I was getting rewarded for not really caring and just saying, it doesn't matter if I'm good enough or if I'm a failure. The art is whatever, and it happened really fast too. It was like, I was living in some basement, squatting in some basement, got a call, and then it's like, can you be at the Viper Room at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning? Send us your input list. We got there, and they had all our like rental versions of all of our equipment there at the Viper Room with we had the Red Hot Chili Peppers attorney
Wow.
said, "Hey, if something comes of this, I'd be happy to represent you and negotiate the deal." So he showed up there, and then it was Guy Oseary. He was running Maverick Records at the time. He's a movie producer. He had some supercar. I didn't know what it was. I was like, I've never seen anything like this in person. I recognize that guy. I know the name. He signed like Deftones and Alanis Morissette,
Okay.
and then some other manager people and people from the label, and we played like 3 songs in the Viper Room. They had paid their lighting person and sound person, so it was super loud show at the Viper Room playing for like 4 or 5 people at 9 in the morning.
Wow.
We had sound check at like 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then they gave us an offer. And I remember it was like the second time I'd ever even been on an airplane before, and I was flying home and I was like, this is it. I am going to be the next Kurt Cobain. I can make terrible decisions and treat people terribly and get away with it. This is going to be awesome. That's where my life was, Anyway, we made a record, went on a bunch of really great tours. I got to tour with just some bands that I really loved and had some great experiences. And then I found out it was about 3 or 4 weeks before our record was supposed to come out. Guy Oseary he was nowhere to be seen, and he had flown off to Israel to hang out with Madonna and then just didn't come back for the spring. He was just gone. And then the guy who was going to start running the label, he's head of marketing, got poached to some other, anyway, big shuffle. Streaming was becoming a thing. This was back in like the mid 2000s, 2006 ish. And all of a sudden it all went away. Our bank accounts got frozen. No record coming out. I was in the Mesa Boogie guitar amp catalog next to Avril Lavigne and like all this cool style. Also nobody'd pick up our phone calls. Nobody'd answer our emails. It just like it
Disappeared.
it
just like
disappeared.
that.
Yeah, they invited us out. The head of Warner Brothers invited all the bands under Maverick and Warner Brothers out to a party at his mansion in Beverly Hills, and it was just like everybody was there. It was like a movie. It was just like, what? Like they had, just no expense spared, all just food and half naked people running around, skinny dipping in the pool, just famous people everywhere. And there was no explanation about what the party was about. Just a lot of people from the label and other bands kind of nervously looking around. And then it was like 2 days later, everybody got an email and Maverick let everybody go except for like Deftones and Alanis Morissette, and they were getting absorbed. Anyway, so overnight it was all gone. I went through a deep depression because my identity was so wrapped up into
in that.
this fame-shaped hole I had in my heart, and I remember we had a show at Velour down in Provo, and this was, few months after we had lost our deal. And previously we had we'd sell 2 or 3 nights in a row out. We'd take a weekend and there'd be a line around the building and we had stuff going on. And now like a few months later, same band, same songs. It's not like anybody was sick of the songs because the record never came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we it was halfway full. Nobody was really there. I ran out of I did the last line of Coke I had before we went on stage in the freaking bathroom down there. Got on stage, lost my voice halfway through the first song, played terribly. Everybody had somebody to go home with except for me. I had and at this point I was just like, I'm a failure. I couldn't make a marriage work. I had a major record deal. They were playing our songs on the radio for a minute and had documentaries that were coming out in support of the record and all this stuff. And like Now nobody will return my call. I'm alone. This is it, you know. And I remember we were living in American Fork by that music school,
Hmm.
and I had there was a whatever the big gallon of vodka things are,
Handle.
the handle, and a box of sleeping pills, and I was like, all right, this is it. Like, there's nothing else, you know, nothing, got nothing going for me, and I don't see a way through this where this story turns out well, you know. But I wanted to make sure I didn't end up in a coma. So I Googled if it was going to do the trick. And all I could find were these pesky resources and statistics about suicide and suicide prevention. And serendipitously, this is hilarious. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm Googling this stuff. Our friend Taryn knocks on the door and says, "Hey, Joel, how you doing? I just wanted to come by, see how." I was like, "Hey," and she sat and we talked for 10 or 15 minutes, and she left. And I was like, I need something to look forward to. You know, I need just something.
Mhm.
And I remembered that girl that I hung out with platonically at we were on tour with 30 Seconds to Mars, and there was this girl I met there that she asked me what I was into, and I was like, well, I was talking to her about this great feeling that happens when you mix and hooking up with random people, and like I'm really what are you into? She goes, I love Jesus, and and she like gave me this like bracelet that had a Bible verse on it, and we just hung out, and I was like, nothing's ever gonna happen with this chick. I can be 100% myself. I've got nothing to hide around her. Anyway, in that dark hour, I was like, if I could take that girl out on a date, I mean, I'm just getting emotional. Like, that would be a pretty cool thing to look forward to, you know? And so I MySpace messaged her,
Mhm.
and like almost immediately I was like, hey, I know this is kind of weird, but like if I paid for half the plane ticket, would you want to come out and hang out for a weekend maybe and go see a movie or something? And almost immediately she's like, yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Wow.
I'd do. And she flew out. And anyway, the rest is history. We just celebrated our 18th year wedding anniversary this last week or two
Well, it
days
was that
ago.
it was that dark moment when as you used Gus, the
Yeah.
universe,
Yeah, man.
it it said it is not your time.
Yeah.
There's a lot more for you, and it inspired you, and it inspired your friend Taryn to stop by, and then it inspired you to take that and say, what can I look forward to? And 18 years later, you are married, you have kids, and everything just worked out because that's where you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And that's one thing that we have learned is sometimes you have to just be open to listen. When you're in those darkest moments, and we've all been there in those darkest moments, we don't want to connect with anything. We don't want to be part of it. But that's when you hear or you feel that connection to something bigger than you.
Mhm.
And it's important to listen to it. It's important to take a moment and ask the question, to be curious of, what is this?
Yeah.
Why is this saying this to me right now? I'm miserable. I don't want to do this. And all these things, taking that moment to be curious
Yeah.
and to ask those questions of yourself, because if you wouldn't have taken that moment,
Yeah.
we might not be sitting here talking to you.
Absolutely.
Kurt Cobain died on April 5th, which was just a few days ago, and we might be having a similar
Yeah.
situation. And I'm so grateful that it had turned out that way for you. And I'm excited to hear that your life has turned into this amazing thing over the last 18 years where now you're really working to help other people.
That that's that, man. If we're not doing that, what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I heard a new kind of turn of phrase this morning I hadn't heard before. Is we never know what worse luck our bad luck saved us from.
Oh, wow.
you know?
Wow.
And I immediately thought about that moment or the how much. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a weak flawed I'm a very weak flawed individual, and yeah, it's easy to ruminate about, well, what if this would have happened, or what if how could I have done that differently, or if I could have taken advantage of this, maybe things would have turned out differently, or whatever. But yeah, what worse luck did that it was, well, what if our record would have come out a month sooner? Or
Yeah.
when, you know what I mean? Or what if, all those things. And it's like, what worse luck did that save me from,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have survived the music industry?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm a really sensitive person, which I think serves me when I'm writing songs, or um, my recording studio is a vault for emotional vulnerability. When people come in, it is a safe place to explore all sorts of feelings, say anything, even if it's only 5% of the artist that's in there. If it's 5% of them that wants to say something and that's where it's coming from, they have to know that
That's the space they can do it
that's
in.
the space.
Uh-huh.
Um, and anyway, so that's a positive there. Where that's tough is, no, I was in such a weak place, and my ego and attachment, all of my attachments. I hadn't been to a day of therapy, uh, and the people who are in it, they're not incentivized to make sure you're doing okay and in it for the long haul. Like, they know most artists have about 3 records in them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if they know, oh, the guy A&R guy at the label really liked this one where you sing about this and whatever, and yeah, or got questions on tour, we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, here's some coke, here's some booze, go have fun. Hey, the guys in this band are hanging out on that bus with a bunch of chicks, I bet they'd be happy to see you. What, like, that's what's celebrated, and that's no way I would have survived it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not, anyway, not
But
with where I was.
Yeah.
I think you were meant to do what you're doing now.
Yeah.
I mean, it really sounds like you were guided in the right direction to just head down this path, and now you're able to be authentic with all these other artists that are coming in that you're helping produce and different things, and letting them know how it really is, and
Yeah.
giving them life experience about what to look forward to, how this is helping, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I
So
agree. Mm-hmm.
so there's one question I have. It's I've always wanted to ask a musician this.
Yeah.
So I went to, yes, a Nickelback concert, okay?
It's great.
And a couple years ago with my daughter, and there's the song that Chad Kroeger did was Santana called Hero.
Yeah.
And that song was on the Spider-Man movie.
Mhm.
And he got up and talked about what that song was really about.
Okay.
And it was really about drugs and partying
Mhm.
and how you felt like a hero when you were in that state of mind.
Yeah.
And that song got turned into, hey, a hero for a superhero movie, and made a whole different meaning than was originally written.
Yeah.
I know that happens a lot where you get an artist who writes a song for a specific reason and a specific emotion,
Yeah.
and a listener that gets something completely different out of that.
Yeah.
When somebody approaches you with that question and says, hey, this song's really done this and this for me, and you're like, well, I was really not about anything like that. How do you handle that situation? Because I know it could be make or break it
Yeah.
with that person if it wasn't handled correctly. So
Yeah.
curious.
I just if it's somebody else coming to me, I take that and celebrate that experience.
Okay.
And if I'm asked candidly what it was about, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
If it's, if it's different, but I won't go out of my way to correct that, or you know what I'm saying, or anything like that. And on the other side of that, I have been the person on the other side of that with my own songs. That happens a lot. A lot of the songs when we got signed, some of the songs I wasn't quite sure what they were about when I was writing them, and then as a middle-aged dude with kids listening to a song that some 23-year-old wrote that was me half my life ago, and I'm going, "Oh, man, there was something going on up there," and I knew I didn't quite know what I was writing down. I was just trying to get out of the way, like I do when I'm doing the right work, and then I feel like I get it. Or conversely, sometimes there's a song we've got that it's our show closer every night, that, when we play it all the time, it's called My Sweet. Uh, and the chorus goes, "Don't run out on me now, don't run out on me now." And it's this sounds like a song about a breakup and everything. The song was written about a bottle of whiskey. It's a dreadful Sunday. You were there to numb my brain or something. Anyway, uh, and it was about how liquor stores in Utah aren't open on Sunday. And it's Sunday, it's early in the evening on Sunday, and I'm looking at this bottle going down. I'm going, don't run out on me now.
Oh my goodness.
You know,
That's funny.
not don't run it, and it
Yeah.
took on that second meaning, that other meaning. Now I'm to me, that song, when I play it live and I still get the goosebumps. I'm not singing about a bottle of whiskey. I'm singing about that fire inside that made me want to pick up a bass, or made me want, um, because it gets it gets that little fire gets difficult and slipperier the older we get,
Right.
and sometimes that feeling of looking out, and the crowd is maybe a bit thinner than you had hoped it would be, or that whatever the thing, like I was saying earlier, the thing on the other side of the thing, it's like, okay, if that all goes away, like that spark, that flame, yeah, don't run out on me now. I got,
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up. I mean, song you wrote when you're 23 means something completely different to you 10, 15 years later.
mm,
I see that in my own personal life
Mhm.
of songs where maybe it was a breakup song, for example,
yeah,
and I was listening to it during a breakup, and it hit all the sore spots, and it just really made everything, all the feels come out. But listening to that song 15 years later, now I'm happy
yeah,
that I'm not in that space. I remember being there. I remember that moment. I remember those feelings. And now I'm celebrating this breakup song
yeah,
because I'm not there, and
yeah,
I made it through it. And so it's interesting how music can do that over time,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
How
I-
our interpretation can change.
yeah.
Yeah. Or our perception can change on the lyrics of the songs and
Yeah.
the feelings of it.
And I think the kind of to your point about the songs that we grew up, the Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and the age of men now that were potentially listening to that stuff. I think so much of that may have to do with awareness and intention, where if you could be listening to that same breakup song, it makes you happy now because you so happy that you're not in that situation anymore. If it's a bad week, and there's the not healthy thing of midlife crisising and driving back past your ex-girlfriend's house, where and ruminating or whatever. It's like, okay, same song,
Mhm.
same time of life, two very different intentions,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know and I don't know. I don't have any answers. Just more questions, I guess, as far as the uh, age of struggling dudes dying by suicide, and the music. And I guess I get yeah. The question I will probably be asking myself is, okay, trying to be intentional about it. Am I listening to this record? I started listening to that old Chili Peppers record last night. I hadn't in forever again. And it was like, here it is. It's like, man, it was great. It was grounding. I could also see how there was a lot of things that I listened to back then, if it's a Cure record or whatever it is, like, oh, like this was the record me and my high school girlfriend used to make out to this, and and if it's a trip down memory lane as a dude going through a midlife crisis, that's a different, Yeah, different intention and different awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of just if you are really struggling and in a dark place, you really need to be careful of what you're surrounding yourself with and what
Yeah.
you are actually intaking, because it can definitely send you down a worse spiral versus bringing any kind of positive energy into your life, whether it's family or positive music or, positive people. You want to be very intentional about what you're surrounding yourself with. If you have a toxic job and you're coming home every day in a bad mood and you're depressed and you're anxious, you need to look at that and be very intentional on what can I do to change this before you get in that spiral tunnel vision of I have nowhere to go. I have no place to be. I have nobody to love me. I have no reason to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Or turning on the Limp Bizkit song, break stuff, and
Yeah.
who knows where that's going to take
Yeah.
at points. I
You
mean,
know?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I love about music, because whatever I'm feeling, I can find a song to match it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm angry and I'm pissed off and I need a release, if that Limp Bizkit song is a great one, give me something to break,
Yeah.
And so, but if I'm happy, I want a happy song to reflect that. If I'm sad, it can go both ways. Sometimes I can listen to a sad music and appreciate it and maybe cry
Yeah.
and have a little bit of a release to that song. But then the next one I'm going to listen to, I'm going to try to have it be a little bit more upbeat to raise my spirits a bit,
Right.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot about intention and what we're taking in.
Yeah.
So,
I think music's a good friend that way, or can be a good friend that way. Just like you said, the right sad song can make you feel seen and if that's what you need. A lot of times that's just what we need. Like, I need it to be okay that I'm sad for a minute.
Yeah.
That's got to be all right. And then what you do, just what you said, what you do with that afterwards. A good friend will just sit and let you cry and let you talk without trying to fix it.
mhm.
However, a good friend will also say, all right, uh, we've talked that out, and I want the best for. Let's get you out of this house. We're gonna go on a hike now. Like let's go. So
Kind of
I love that.
divert you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it kind of brings in one of the last questions that I have for you, Joel, is for everybody listening. We've talked about a lot of stuff, how music can influence you and, change moods and different things. But for everybody listening, what recommendations or things could you put out there as far as what they can do to help with something maybe they're struggling with, or help something to going through, or even help a happy time? How can music help them and maybe explore something new? How can that help them exploring something new when it comes to music in a situation that might be hard?
Yeah. I mean, I think what Hillary was just talking about is a good example of that. Music being a good friend. Um, you know, it, back back when we used to start listening to music, we were forced to be intentional about what we were listening to because it cost money to listen to.
Right.
And if
Yep.
we wanted to hear something new, we had to have a friend turn us onto it or hear it on the radio, and we all know how much new music they actually play on the radio.
Yeah.
But it seems so basic, but like just trying something different out. I do this all the time, just on my playlists. I feel dumb saying I have a Spotify subscription because they're supposed to be the devil, and but just try every once in a while. I'm like, I had my I lost my Spotify subscription because something, I don't remember, and I had to re-sign up, and it totally reset my algorithm. And I had such a good thing going on with all my, I call them my spirit walks that I go on. and I had such a good thing going, and then I had to start from scratch. And it was like, oh, I'm just gonna, I don't know what this is, and
We're gonna try it.
just try. And I'm just like, oh, I'm listening to this. Never in a million, like, this doesn't sound like it was music that was made for me. This was made for whatever. But like, hey, just don't skip it.
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
Mhm.
Somebody made it, and a lot of people like it. For it to be showing up where it's showing, just listen to the whole thing all the way through and try to find some. And I found some pretty unlikely stuff that I wouldn't have thought that I liked, that I really did. And I don't, that's the funny thing too. I don't always remember the names of the bands or the artists or whatever, but it's like, it'll just be a new perspective or a new point of view. And pay attention to how the music makes, pay attention to how the music makes you feel.
Yeah.
More than, the genre or,
The name or
the name, or what liking it says about you and your identity.
yeah.
So like
Oh.
the hot topicification of so much of the music, where it's like, this is who I am, so these are the bands I listen to, and then the lyrics were almost secondary because the aesthetic fit what you wanted to be perceived as. And then it's like, I'm on my spirit walks and I'm like listening to some stuff. I'm like, if anybody else could hear what was going on here, it would be like some Nicki Minaj or somewhere. I'm just like, I'm just like blushing on my run, like, oh my gosh, this is nasty. But you know what? Screw it. I'm like, okay, all right. Like,
Hey, my favorite thing you just said out of all that is pay attention to how it makes you
yeah,
feel,
man.
and just listen to that internal voice. I think that's amazing advice for anybody going through anything and wanting to find some type of outlet.
Mhm.
Explore. See how it makes you feel. If it's not the feeling you're looking for or the feeling you need, keep going, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Don't settle.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I got one more question
Yeah.
too. When you were going through something difficult in your life, was any advice or anything given to you that you've taken with you and has just sat with you and been so important that you would be able to share?
Yeah, this one it's not as like heavy or earth shattering, or feels maybe a bit light and practical on the heels of my um story about meeting my wife. But I had my bass teacher, Craig Poole, he's like, I call him my Mr. Miyagi or my music Yoda. He got me into music production as well, and got me, he's been a great dude to call up. But I remember the first time as an adult, and I was trying to figure out, music as a profession. What does that mean? Am I teaching bass lessons? Am I producing? Am I writing songs? What is this? And I'm kind of doing a million different things. And this is advice that I don't take as often as I should, but he just said, just one word, man, like focus. Like, just sit still and find something to focus on, and you'll have less if you can just focus on the one thing. Just pick something, and it doesn't have to be the right thing. This kind of choice paralysis of whatever, of all the different things we can be doing. Like, should I start a podcast? Should I be a stand-up comedian? I want to do this for my kids. I want to start this business. There are all these things, but I think that's the one that I am constantly having to remind myself. So focus. You can't prioritize everything, otherwise it's not a priority. Focus.
There's always
There we
beauty
go.
in simplicity.
Yes.
And you can take that word and use it in so many different avenues.
Hmm.
Just that's a great word.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just that one word can make such a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate that. Well, as we wrap things up, Joel, we always take the last couple minutes of our show and we turn the time over to our guest.
Okay.
You've known Hillary a long time.
Yeah.
We've known each other just not nearly as long, not as much. But is there any questions that might be on your mind after our discussion today, or anything that you want to ask us that possibly somebody else listening would want to know too?
Yes. I was talking to my wife last night about my calendar this morning and what we were going to be doing, and I was doing my best to explain the work that y'all are doing with your uh,
with our nonprofit.
with your nonprofit,
Mhm.
and I can typically do a pretty good job at the elevator pitch, and I was trying to remember some of the different things as far as working with employers and employees. Would you mind giving me your elevator pitch for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Scott's the best at this.
I mean,
So,
so where this all strives from is we had some personal experience and found that there is a huge lacking in the business world, specifically construction and mining industries, on training on how to handle people dealing with substance abuse,
Mhm.
mental health crisis, depression, all the things that kind of roll into that mental health bubble. And from our personal experience, we're like, what we found with the research we did was the reason that these businesses and these industries struggle so much is there's not any education
Mhm.
available to them to educate and give their people the knowledge to be able to deal with these situations. And so, what we are doing is taking that whole, and we've found a few courses, and right now we only have a few courses that we're focusing on. And these courses are very foundational courses that we teach. That have substance abuse, mental health disorders, suicide prevention, different other disorders like eating disorders, things like this, and give everybody the tools of knowing what they are,
Mhm.
but then also how to have the conversations about them, how to have, listen with empathy and how to have, that listening ear non-judgmentally. And then also where to find the resources and how to direct people to the correct resources. So that's stage one of what the nonprofit is that education piece and bringing it in. Stage two is going to be able to be providing some type of scholarships for people that are struggling as this
ex-
grows.
extra resources
Yeah.
that maybe their EAP programs aren't covering.
Yeah.
A lot of EAP, employee assistant programs, offer 4 counseling sessions. I'm sorry, 4 counseling sessions is only going to scratch the surface. So we want to be able to maybe provide extra counseling services on top of what
Or
maybe their
treatments.
insurance doesn't cover. Yeah, if somebody needs to go to treatment, we'd like to be able to help pay for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of phase 2 is filling in the gaps of what their insurance doesn't cover, what they might not know, what their insurance does cover, what it doesn't, and just helping in those avenues. Um, the mining and construction industries are struggling so much right now.
Mhm.
And we've had multiple friends in the construction industry, and that world, it struggles because say you get hurt on the job, you go to the doctor, they give you pain pills. A lot of them get addicted to pain pills and then get addicted to other substances.
Mhm.
They're in grueling work environments.
Yeah.
Out in the sun all day or underground all day or sitting in a truck all day long and not talking to anybody.
Mhm.
So that is why our main focus is on these industries right now, because they are the ones that have the highest rates of suicide, the
Mhm.
highest rates of addiction. I've been in HR for the past 10 years in a treatment center, and I see so many clients coming in from those industries even.
Yeah.
My own husband struggled with it.
Mhm.
And so that is why this is close to us. And we found a need
Yeah.
in the community and we want to be able to help.
Yeah.
So,
So it's just, we just do a little bit at a time. Like you said, your word focus.
Yeah.
We tried to do so much when we launched this thing all at one time. And they're like, we had to take a step back and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is very important. What's the first thing that's important? And that's that education piece. And so that's our focus for the first 12 months is building the curriculum, the classes, the things that we're doing. And we've signed on a couple businesses already and it's going fantastic. And we're super excited. And so it's just little by little.
That is so cool. I'm gonna do a much better job going back and tell. You did a great job telling me, but it had been a several weeks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's
So,
great. Thank you.
well, we are so happy that you came down, Joel. This has been
Me too.
great.
Me too.
I look forward to
Me.
doing more stuff with you. I know
Great.
we've talked about some other stuff
Yeah.
that we'll have to discuss as well. So,
Let's do it.
everybody, thank you again for tuning in today. And as we end every one of our episodes, we always remind you that And thank you for tuning in. And we hope that the message today has hit you where it's going to help you navigate some of your life's challenges or survive that pickle that you're dealing with right now. But on the other side, there's somebody in your life that is dealing with something right now that could hear this, that could use this message. So we challenge you to share this episode with a family, friend, coworker, or just somebody you come in contact with that you feel like this is something they need to hear in their life today. We can't continue to do this without you guys. It grows because you guys are sharing and you tune in every week. So thank you, Joel, for taking your time out of your busy day to come down with us. We appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, again for tuning in. And don't forget, until next time, that you're
A big deal.
Oh,